You ready to do this, Stu?
I am ready. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Stu Jones.
Are we really that safe these days?
Maybe not. But we are two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 95. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Stu, 95. I remember that as being my sophomore year in high school, but 95 means we are 5 weeks away from 100 episodes.
I had already been fired from my first job by then.
Well, me too, but I mean just detasseling corn at 14 count?
Well, if you shuck the shuck.
You must. I don't know.
Nope.
Yeah, no. Too many literary problems with that sentence, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's getting close. I know we talk about things here and there, but it's kind of surreal. It's like, it's still like 5 whole weeks, but then it's like, oh my God, there's only 5 weeks.
Right.
And now, getting close, man. Getting close.
So I'm looking at it, I'm like, 100 episodes, that's a big milestone. And then I also realized that 4 short episodes after that, when we hit 104, which is the 2-year mark exactly of this show being around every single week without missing a week, it just blows my mind that we're that close to having this podcast in the wild, out there for our super friends, for 2 straight years. That's just mind-blowing to me.
That's not just the podcast not missing a week. That is you not missing a week. I mean, heck, I've only been here, 20-something episodes, and I've even missed a week. So
you've been here a lot more than that, Stu.
20 plus.
20 plus, almost another 20.
Wasn't it like episode 74, I think?
I think episode 63, I think, was the first one you guessed it on.
I don't know.
I can go back and look.
It's been so long, Spencer.
Right. You're getting so old in the tooth. Yeah, almost 2 years without missing a single one, and man, here's to many, many more.
I gotta say, man, you need to get a life, get more hobbies.
Right.
You need better Monday nights, but I'm glad that you don't.
I take a vacation and I still bring a microphone with me. What can I say?
Well, that's dedication to the cause. But I mean, we've talked about it. We do it for love. You obviously, this is your baby, and you got some stamina, my friend.
I love doing it, and I love talking about this kind of stuff. It's a good time. I find, and this is the reason why I started the podcast, was that I found myself wanting to... I
speak in the second person.
Right. I found myself wanting to have these conversations about things that I enjoyed more, and I found as I got older that I was starting to get into these ruts where I go to work, and I come home, and I do stuff with my family and my kids, and I just wasn't taking time for myself to just kind of nerd out and do the things that I enjoy. And I've really enjoyed Monday nights. It's been a nice way to start my week every week. So
cool.
Yeah, but speaking of weeks, how was yours, my friend?
This week was actually fairly uneventful. Not really too much going on. I did make a new friend. We went and saw a movie this weekend that, for no real reason whatsoever, just because I want to be difficult, I'll talk about later in the podcast.
Sounds appropriate, yeah.
Yeah. My neck is feeling much better.
Good. I was going to ask about that because your head's still there. So that's a good sign.
Yeah. No. So I
Did you get the cortisone shot?
I did not. It just finally started to kind of ease up. I still have a nice big old knot in the muscle, but I got a massage. I've got some mobility to it. It's still, I can feel it being a little tense, but I'll take it. I will take it.
So what did the doctors think it was then?
It just strain.
Wow.
I mean, like usually if it's like a pinched nerve or something, there's usually some kind of telltale sign, especially if it's in your spine. But yeah, no, I'm good. So it's getting better day by day. I'm happy for that. Playing a little bit of WoW here and there. It's funny because I have so much stuff going on. I have WoW open like almost all the time. Except I'm also AFK all the time. And I've got like a couple real life friends that are playing, and you know, it's pretty much become a visual chat room for me at this point. Not really doing much in the game, which is unfortunate, but I don't know. It's just the way it goes. The whole single father stuff, it's very time consuming, but I'm getting into a routine with a lot of things that I wasn't in a routine with before, and it's making it easier to get things done. Like my house is actually really freaking clean right now, which is not a thing I've ever done. But you know, once you get it clean, maintaining it is not as difficult as, you know, re-cleaning it all the time. So Morgana's been
pretty much the advice our parents gave us when we were kids, right?
Oh, don't go there. Dang it.
No, I'm saying
I don't want to
acknowledge
acknowledge that. It wasn't my parents, though. Let me be clear about that. My parents never had that talk, but no, so Morgana's been a huge help. Like she and I have become this like nice team of, you know, taking care of stuff, and she's always volunteering to kind of help. And
I think the word you're looking for is dynamic duo.
She is definitely my sidekick for sure.
There you go.
She didn't have school today, which your kid didn't have school today either. So I told her I was going to have her do her laundry today. I told her that yesterday, and she's like, yeah, okay. I'm like, okay, yeah, you say that now. But so I had washed and dried it and everything else, and then put it up on the table. I'm like, okay, go ahead and fold your clothes, and then let me know when you're done, and I'll take the basket upstairs. You can put them away. She did it. And she did it well, and she did it fast, and I was like, I don't know who you are, but you are very much welcome on my team. So it's cool to see little, you know, responsibility spurts like that. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's pretty awesome.
Take it while you get it.
But if that's coming up on the exciting things of my week, it's been a pretty dull week. So I don't really have anything else going on.
Wow. No, that's exciting though. Like I noticed that with Charlie, like he's starting to try to be more independent and do more things, and like I can give him a little more responsibility. I mean, not a ton, but that's just a good feeling as a father, right? I mean, you can say, do this, and they can do it, and you're like, hey, I don't have to take care of that anymore. You're on your own.
Yeah, monitor that situation.
Well, sure, but we've noticed that with Jackson. Like Jackson, our 4-year-old is, I don't know what it was, but for the longest time, like we had to dress him. Like he just would not. But like lately, he's like, Daddy, look, I put my shirt on by myself. I put my shoes on. I'm like, yeah, good job, buddy. You should have been doing this for like the last year because your brother did it at that age, you know. But all kids are different. But it's so cool to see him like picking up on that kind of responsibility thing. So kudos to Mo for doing the laundry. That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
Get her to do your laundry now.
Nope. No, you know, the funny thing is I don't know. I've always been picky about that. Even like when I was married and stuff, I always did my own laundry. Always. I don't know.
I don't have a big thing with my laundry. It's just how it gets dried. Because if I have a lot of stuff that gets dried, and if it shrinks, I'm like, just hang it. We'll be fine, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it really does come down to that control of it. Like, you know, knowing that it's folded right, knowing that my shirts are the right way, and I put it all in the drawers the way I like it because I've had that done for me before, and that's just a whole level of chaos I'm not prepared for.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I got you.
Yeah, that's my update for the week. I do my own laundry. What do you got going on, man?
So my in-laws were in town this last weekend. They came in only for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so they were on their way to California to watch their other grandkids for a couple days because their son and daughter-in-law went to Paris for her birthday. But it was nice having them here. They got to see the boys and spend some time with me and Brita. And we we used that old potbelly cooker yesterday.
Nice.
We did brisket, we did burnt ends, and we did ribs. And I mean, I did just a grip of meat in that thing. And I tried something new. Cheddar, Gouda, bacon, smoked macaroni and cheese.
Oh.
Yes. It was, I actually had a little bit, even though I knew it was carb heavy and dairy heavy and, it was a lot of extra calories. I had 2-3 mouthfuls of it and that was it. I called it good. But so if you're in need of a little barbecue stew, I've got some in the freezer. So
that is a standing offer. If you ever need me to be a buddy and take some of that off your hands, for you, I will do that.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I know you're here for me.
Yep, for sure.
So that was good. I went out on a nice motorcycle ride on Saturday with some members of my club.
Nice.
And we went out to this little place called the Rhode Island Diner out in Oakley, just kind of out kind of past Park City.
Yep.
Yeah, really good food. It was a nice drive. We had to avoid some smoke a little further down because there was there's a fire going on in these parts, but good weather for riding. Today, I actually met my boss for the first time. He flew out here. I spent all day with him, and it was hard because we were doing a lot of stuff. We were having meetings. We're kind of going the overview of the end of this year and next year and this new building that where we might be moving into, and kind of so doing a lot of high level planning and going over a lot of high level stuff and kind of what he wants to see for me and for our global IT team and this and that. At the same time, I'm also trying to answer tickets and fix things for people. And
I've done that dance.
Yeah, I must apologize to the people that I support because there wasn't as much of that going on today. I have a lot to pick up tomorrow from today, but it was really cool to get to see him. And then here was the interesting thing is the plan was tonight that we were going to go out to dinner, the two of us, a chance to kind of get out and go have dinner and just kind of relax a little bit and talk. And then another guy from corporate came out as well. So I was like, okay, it'll just be the three of us. Then we found out another guy from corporate was here. I was like, okay, it'll be the four of us. But today at my company, we instituted a new president of the company, and that announcement was made, and it's another guy from corporate that they all know, and I've kind of talked with a little bit. And so he went with us. So I actually got to go out to dinner with the new president of my company, and then two IT guys and a guy from kind of like lean manufacturing. And so it was kind of a fun time. We all went out to the Timbermine Steakhouse up in Ogden, right at the mouth of the canyon there, and had a really fantastic meal. And I didn't have to pay for it. And I got to kind of hang out with the new president of the company and my new boss, and just kind of got to, get some inside scoop on how things are going to roll and how my future looks. And it was a good day.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. However, one other thing, this is a good thing and not a bad thing. I did something last Thursday that we haven't talked about yet, and I wanted to bring up. We had our inaugural. Man, I'm Englishing hard today. Inaugural. Our first annual.
There's a word for that, Spencer. It's inaugural.
Yeah, our first annual D&D campaign. We started last Thursday night. And you tell me, so you give me some feedback. I had a ton of fun. And once we got going, we did character creation, and that took a little while, trying to help everyone kind of figure out how to use the Roll20 system and how to create the characters and kind of link it all together. And so that took a little while. But then once we kind of got that out of the way and we got to actually start on the campaign, that was, for me, the best part of it, because we actually got to get going, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, this is supposed to happen, but these guys are wanting to do this over here, so how do I improvise? And then I was like, and I didn't know if I was going to try to do voices when I first started, and we started kind of going, and then an opportunity to do a voice kind of approached, and I was like, I'm just going to go in for it. Let's lean into this thing hard, and I'm going to go all the way, and if my voices suck, but let's just have a good time. You tell me, as a perspective of the player, what did you think?
So getting the character creation out of the way, important step. It was a little I was already feeling a little pinch for time, as I do like every day. I don't feel like I have enough time anymore. So like we started on time with character creation stuff that did kind of drag out a little bit, but very necessary.
Yep.
So that's a thing that's happened, and it's one and done. I also, and this is not necessarily feedback for you, but feedback for general purpose, I guess. I kind of felt like I was a little overshadowed by some of the other events that were going on, even if I did get an arrow to my neck and was bleeding out.
Oh, man.
That was close. But
you nearly died on the first hit you took.
Yeah, it was
brutal.
Terrible. But fun also in that respect. I have no problem dying in a campaign, which some people do. So,
Right.
But that's just kind of a matter of me kind of getting into the groove of the game itself. I mean, I'm great out of character. I'm very witty, zingy, all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. But as far as in character, trying to find his place in the party and stuff is something that, I don't know, maybe is a little difficult for me, whatever. Two really, really super important parts of things. And I know that you went to a couple, I guess it was Dungeon Master panels or Game Master panels at FanX. You did this one thing that I found to be very interesting. So I tend to play I've played some other narrative role-playing games, meaning that they're much less mechanic heavy, and you roll dice as a function of what's going on. One of them being Marvel Heroes. And that game is about, you don't have so many dice to take so many actions every round. It's you have up to so many dice, but you have to justify it through your narrative. So if you're playing Wolverine, you don't just roll dice to say, hey, I got my claws. You need to describe through the game how you're using your claws. You could get extra dice, say, for doing a tumble that leads up to the claw. Oh, also, you've got Hulk there. Hulk there can provide some narration and add a couple dice to it. And the dice are a product of all these actions that you take. So it's a much more narrative driven kind of system. Fate is what it's kind of based on, another RPG. And I like those a lot. D&D is old school bread and butter. I love D&D. I love the rules and the organization of it. It's not to say that I would prefer it be narrative. It's just a very different take. We had one of the characters actually roll a crit. And instead of just doing double damage, you had him, the guy that rolled the crit, describe the action of that hit, which was a little gruesome. But the opportunity to put that in control of the player as kind of like a little extra bonus, that's something I'm not typically used to seeing. And I'm not sure if it was because you were new and that's just like the way you wanted to tackle that, or if that was some kind of technique or something that you had gotten out of the panels.
It's twofold. One, it's something Matt Mercer does, who does the DMing for Critical Role, that I think is really big and popular. And I've watched a little bit of that, and I've kind of watched some of his DMing tips and techniques. But it was also something that was talked about during one of the DM panels, and it brought me back to when I played a one shot on Roll20 a while ago, where I got the critical hit on a dragon, and the guy's like, "Okay, you roll this." He's like, "Tell me how you do it." And I was like, he's like, "Describe to me how you make that hit. Tell me in detail." And I was like, okay. And everyone's like, yeah, like they all kind of knew. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I realized, oh, I'm describing the killing blow.
Right.
And I had a moment when I was describing mine when I played that one shot where I was like, this is cool because it allowed me to... I feel like when I hear Dungeon Master say, "Oh, you rolled this, so what really happened was X, Y, Z or whatever." But if you're going to get to describe the killing blow, like you get to put your own flair on it and your own spin, and I really like that. And then I know Matt Mercer does that, and that's kind of been his thing that a lot of people look up to, and a lot of people now copy. And then they mentioned that in 2 of the different DM panels that I went to. I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm like, I think that'll be fun and give a little extra layer of enjoyment. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that was something I specifically tried to do.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's not like it happens all the time. If it only happens on a crit or something,
Right.
You know, that doesn't distract and detract from the flow of the game, and that's a good thing. Because sometimes when you do new stuff, it can very much become a distraction and get in the way of things going. But it was brilliant. We had one moment like that the whole session, and it just really worked out. So that was really well done. The one thing I would caution there is, like, with some players, putting them on the spot like that to be able to describe it, that can kind of cause people to kind of go into their shell a little bit. I'm glad he rose to the occasion, and that was...
And did he ever?
Yes. We can't even really talk about it on this podcast unless we want to go to another rating, but
right.
That was good. The second thing you had already mentioned was the voices. And to the Super Friends, yes, we are on-air personality, if you will, voiceover work, whatever. That's what we're doing right now. I did not know that Spencer had in his repertoire goblin voices. It was beautiful. And it wasn't just the voice, but you were just like cagey and everything else. And, talking about some other female goblin. And he's like, I think she's kind of cute. And just, it was a very in-character moment for a DM. And we loved it. It was fantastic. So well done.
Thank you. So this is something, I don't talk about it a ton, but like when I was in high school, I used to do acting and was in plays and musicals and whatnot, and I really loved it. I really thought that that's what I wanted to go to college for, and then I realized that the likelihood I was actually going to get paid to be on screen somewhere probably wasn't going to happen. And I thought, I'll go behind the scenes, and I'll do, like voiceover work or camera work, and maybe become a director. And then I got to college and it was like, girls, and paid attention to that. And then I was like, maybe I'll do this. And then I kind of looked at advertising and whatnot. But my love of acting and, improvising and, kind of comedies like never really left me. And so for me, as I had no intention to do voices. I was like, I'm just going to play it straight and, let's just kind of go at this kind of half speed, because I'm learning Roll20, I'm learning the game, and I'm learning to DM all at the same time. It's a lot. I feel extremely stressed about it, extremely nervous, but there was just that moment when it came up, and I looked at it and I was like, nope, I'm going all in. I'm like, I don't know it. I don't know any other way. And it was a moment of improv, and I was like, I can do this. I'm like, even if it's bad, even if I mess things up, even if I don't know the rules and I got to get recorrected after the fact, we're going to have fun, and let's just lean heavy into it. So
rule number one is always have fun. And unfortunately, I think DMs kind of feel like they're exempt from that or an exception to that. And I've seen some DMs that really, it's a labor of love, and they DM the campaign, and they do it because they love it, and they want to provide that for players, but you don't see them actually having animated fun with it. And I would say that's definitely a mistake. If you have an opportunity to have fun as a DM, you should absolutely go for it. It was inspiring for the scene, and we were no longer talking to the DM. We were talking to Charlie.
Goblin Dave.
It was Dave. Oh, that's right. It was Dave.
Yeah. Goblin Dave.
They were all labeled Goblin ABCD, and of course all got adequate names to represent. Which was
Albert, Barry, Carol, and Dave.
Carol, that's right. And Dave maybe kind of likes Carol, so we'll see how that goes if she doesn't fall off the ox. Spoilers.
The funny thing was, we did it all audio. If I would have had my camera on, you would have seen me like making these little hand gestures and like kind of pointing, because I was doing all of that on my side. I was like, I don't know, and like pointing and making goofy faces.
We totally should have had video for those of us able.
So here's the thing, Stu, and like we've kind of talked about this. We want to do this and get into it and get a little more established, and then maybe make a podcast or maybe put this up on Twitch. And we had a player back out like the day of. Yep. And so I put out on Facebook and Twitter, and I said, hey, I'm looking for someone. Can anyone go tonight? And Brian O'Daly, a good friend of ours, a guy who played in the Game of Thrones community with me down at Game Night Games, a regular down there.
I didn't realize that was him. Holy crap. I didn't even... Oh, my God.
so
funny.
Brian messaged me and we started kind of talking, and then like literally about 45 minutes to an hour before we started, I started getting messages from super friends saying, "Hey, I didn't know this is a thing. Where can I go watch this? Or where can I listen to this?" And I was like, it's not, I don't know that we're really ready. And then Caleb Albers said like, "Hey, I really want to listen to this because I really kind of want to get in and I want to see kind of what it's about." And I tried to encourage him, say, "Well, just jump in and come play with us. And, we can make room." And he's like, "I just kind of want to listen." So we actually had him join in the audio and just, be muted and kind of listen in to us. So he could hear that. But I had a number of people, Stu, message and say, "Where can I watch this? What can I do?" And so I definitely think that once we get our feet a little more wet and we get a little more established, that we're gonna shore up our plans and we're gonna make this into a thing, whether it's on Twitch and we stream it every week when we do it, or if we record it and break it up into a series of episodes for a podcast.
I really need to get a green screen going if we do that, because I want to have some phenomenal stuff. So two points I want to make, and then I'm ready to move on. Right. But so the first is that I'm really glad that we did not go for the gusto and try to audio cast that right away. Nothing against the players, whatever, but you need to control that kind of environment a little bit more. And we did have a couple of people that were really quiet. Sound, you definitely want to be consistent across the board. That would be my biggest criticism of that. And obviously you made the choice. I definitely agreed with it that we would not cast that. And I think this is the right environment and the way to do it. The second thing would be, I guess, if there was one thing that I wanted to provide feedback on, there's a tendency to, I guess, for new DMs or maybe even some experienced DMs, is to make everything a role and understand that, sometimes it's okay. Just decide if it works for the plot, then just, hey, you found this thing without needing to roll. Or there were a couple small moments that, putting the goblins on the ox or something. I would consider rethinking the minutia of roles and just let things go. But I would say, and by all means, if you continue to do that, no sweat. It's not a big deal. Overall, I think Thursday was a great success. I think we had a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what this Thursday brings with it being a full play session. And those goblins, oh boy, those goblins.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving back in. I did take a bunch of notes, not necessarily during the play session, but after and in the next morning of, as I thought of things, so that way it'll be easy for me to kind of jump back into where I was as far as the character of Goblin Dave and Goblin Carol, who's still asleep and tied on top of the ox. Well, loosely tied on top of the ox.
With a rope loosely tossed on top of her and called it good.
Weighting her down.
Hey, I'm a cleric, not a ropesmith.
That's right. But, I took some notes, and so it's doing some of those things. And that was one of the notes I did write down for myself. Was like, maybe not everything has to be a roll, a question mark. And that was a note that I put in. So anyway, Super Friends, we had a ton of fun with it. It was a lot of fun. We're looking forward to doing it again. And I definitely think that this is something we're going to be bringing to you in the future for sure. I think it lends itself to a podcast format, and like I said, maybe video, and it may be something we also may do with a local group and record and put it out that way. Because I do agree, Stu, we need to control content and audio quality and such. But
this might be time to start thinking about having an actual producer.
That's an idea.
Because I know people love to do that and contribute. I know a lot of the podcasts that I've listened to. Just having a producer there to kind of keep those things under control so that you can focus on content. Someone to kind of just help us set up the sound of everything, especially if we're all doing it from one location. That's, I felt inspired by that.
Definitely something to think about. And you know me, man, I'm like you, we're busy individuals. And if I can offload some of the technical stuff so I can focus on, content and making sure we have a good campaign, I'm all for that. But
But
in the vein of murdering things such as goblins, how about we can we save the Bothans this week? Is that a possibility?
Hi, I'm a Bothan.
No, it's killing Bothans time. That's what you're telling me?
Yeah, they gotta die.
All right, Stu. Let's do it.
Kill 'em.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Stu. The Bothans are dead. We now have some intelligence. What do you have for me this week?
You know, I kind of wonder if we should play the Star Wars RPG. There is one. Fantasy Flight Games does one. It's pretty good. We could literally kill Bothans every week. Or attempt to. Maybe, you know, Bothan Dave survives and...
Bothan Dave.
Well,
awesome.
Well, last week, kind of mentioned that there was a little bit of disappointment that the internet wasn't actually broken over, you know, getting a Captain Marvel trailer. We did get to see some scenes and some stills and stuff, though. Well, this week, I'm very happy to report that tomorrow the internet may actually break.
Which is interesting because you say tomorrow, but when the podcast released, the internet may have already been broken for 2 days.
If you guys don't hear this, you'll never know that it was because of the trailer that's coming out tomorrow. Right. Good point. So yeah, this is a Monday. Even briefly, you know, toss the idea around that we could record tomorrow. It is just a trailer, right? Right.
True.
So, it looks like Captain Marvel trailer is going to drop on Good Morning America tomorrow. So it's a big press release. The Marvel Studios Reddit community found a leaked call sheet kind of thing that confirmed that the trailer was going to air. So there's been a little scuttlebutt about it, but yeah. So Larson's appearing on Good Morning America to promote the movie. Sure enough, at the end of Good Morning America, we're going to get it, and I'm personally going to do my best to attempt to break the internet because I'm going to be waiting for that sucker to drop. I don't know why I'm so excited, because really Captain Marvel is not really a character I'm that familiar with, honestly, but she looks good with it. I kind of like the way that they've handled passing the torch from Iron Man to her, and there's been a lot of mystique around it, but they've made it, even without really spoiling anything, they've given us the weight of her coming into the picture,
right?
And so this is really kind of the real phase 2. This is a big turning point for Marvel. I want to be there for the very beginning of it and see how it's going to shape up, and I know we're going to get a glimpse of the future of Marvel through this trailer. So
yeah, I'm excited, I think, for a lot of the same reasons as you. I think it drops a little before 7 a.m. our time, I think.
Oh, so Morgana's not going to be going to school tomorrow either because I'll be busy rewatching that over and over again. Poor kid. Right.
So here's the thing. I think one of the reasons why I'm super excited about this movie is that, one, it's set in the 1990s. And so for me, it's that we've seen some movies, you know, back set, you know, obviously Captain America, the first Avenger was set like back in the World War II for part of the movie, and then it jumps forward.
So you're saying Captain Marvel is a period piece?
Captain Marvel will be a period piece, yes. But it's cool because like the 90s were like, you know, my junior high school years. And so I have a very good recollection of that time. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to see, you know, how they kind of date it, how they make things look. We get to see characters that are going to be back. So we're going to get to see Nick Fury with 2 eyes.
I've been seeing him with 2 eyes the whole time. Oh, you mean his eyes? Sorry.
Bad. I love that. We're also going to get to see Clark Gregg's Agent Coulson back again.
Yay!
And we haven't seen him for a while. And, you know, Agent Coulson was great in the movies. I mean, I know he was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but movie-wise. But I think for me, one of the biggest things is that this is a character I don't know very well, and the hype and the way that it's been built up has been very deliberate, very intriguing. And this is going to be the first big Marvel movie that's going to be led by a female superhero. And I really want to see, not that it's direct competition, because it's not, but I really want to see kind of how they answer, how big Wonder Woman was for DC. Is this movie going to stand on its own? Is it going to be, great? Or is it going to be like hey, we had to have this character introduced just for what's upcoming? I think you're right, though. I think this is going to be a big glimpse into the future of where the MCU goes, and I think that's important. But I also want to see for the cultural significance of a big female-led Marvel movie.
Yeah, to that point, though, I mean, I know that it was an important point, and I know that a lot of people have harped on it. But for me, Wonder Woman was never about it being a female movie. And I'm kind of surprised because, I do try to find standout moments in technology and media and so forth. It really had nothing to do with feminism in general, with her, being beautiful, which she absolutely was. She was a kick-butt character, and that character deserved the movie that it got. She deserved the hype in, Batman versus Superman, like everything leading up to it. And even like the soundtrack to it, the score for her, they did it right. And I think they did it right, and they did it justice, as with any character should have, male or female. And I love that makes it a genderless issue, though, props and women deserve to have their place in it. And I think that's exactly how you go about doing it, is by making them just really kick butt roles regardless of the gender. And then they just kind of own that space. So I'm hopeful that that's kind of, we get the same kind of treatment here. The Wonder Woman score would be tough to beat. Holy crap. I could just get chills thinking about it. So yeah, exciting stuff.
I hope on the score we get a little bit of like the old Guardians of the Galaxy, where we get like music that kind of, dates back to that period. I mean, obviously we get like the 70s and like early 80s kind of retro stuff with Guardians of the Galaxy because of Peter Quill's backstory. But if we could get some 90s music in there, like some of the good stuff, I'd be okay. Like, don't give me Ricky Martin. Don't give me the Macarena. Don't give me Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill, because that crap we heard enough of in the 90s. We don't need it again.
Don't call it a comeback. We've been here for years.
Right, but like, yeah, if you could get some of like the hip hop R&B from the 90s, something like that, like I don't know, like a little Snoop Dogg or something from way back in the day.
We saw in the still that she's wearing a Nine Inch Nails t-shirt.
That is true, right?
So, I mean, I could definitely see some agro-industrial making some splash there.
Yeah. Anyway, man, I'm super excited about this. I'm almost tempted, Stu, that we record something after the trailer comes out and just put it out as a sidekick where we just talk about the trailer.
A sidekick for a trailer?
A sidekick for a trailer for just 10 minutes and talk about it. But we'll talk tomorrow after the trailer, I think.
We'll see. I don't know. Interrupt. Man, that's my personal time.
I know, right? So we're talking about, Captain Marvel, and we're talking about the trailer and talking about Wonder Woman. There's some big news with one of Wonder Woman's pals, the old Superman. Something happened this week. Basically, what happened is that there's been reports, and that have been numerous, and it sounds like this is kind of a thing, that Warner Brothers was in talks to get Henry Cavill to do a cameo in the upcoming Shazam movie. And basically, it collapsed due to scheduling issues. And after that, Warner Brothers is basically saying that they're going to move on away from Superman and move away from Henry Cavill. And they're going to shift the DCEU away from Superman and focusing on Superman. Because remember, Man of Steel was the first movie that kind of kicked off the DCEU. And they're going to now try to focus on Supergirl, which is a unintroduced character in their film series currently. Yeah. And that the whole idea is, that Supergirl was supposed to arrive here before Superman, but, she got held up. And
traffic. Whew.
yeah, right? I mean, but the idea is that they're going to kind of use this as kind of a soft reboot, so they could kind of reboot Superman. And I think really what it boils down to is I don't think they know what to do with Superman. That's what I really think it comes down to, is that they did Man of Steel and they went dark with Zack Snyder, and they wanted to kind of have that Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight trilogy feel to it, because those were, popular, successful movies for Warner Brothers. But then they did Man of Steel and they kind of made it dark and brooding. And then you got Batman v Superman, which delved even further and then did some weird things. And then Justice League was kind of darker, although it did get lightened up in tone once you brought in Joss Whedon. And there's also big rumors with Ben Affleck stepping away from this Batman movie, because remember, he was going to write the movie and he was going to direct it, and then he was out as director, and then maybe he's out as writer, and now Matt Reeves is in charge of this thing, and Ben Affleck may be stepping away. So I think it's interesting that Warner Brothers is looking to pivot away from the Superman character, and Henry Cavill's going to walk, and they may be losing Ben Affleck's Batman, but it sounds like they're still going to be kind of going with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, and we don't know what's going to happen yet with Aquaman. If Aquaman does really, really well, Jason Momoa will probably be around. If Aquaman tanks hard, we probably won't see Jason Momoa again. They're probably going to soft reboot everything, which means what for Ezra Miller's Flash movie? Is that still going to happen? Is it not? Who knows?
That movie's got to happen. He was just so amazing in that role. Even if the DCEU splinters off, I hope that stays put. I do know that there have been a couple reactions from Warner Brothers and Henry Cavill himself. We don't really quite know what those reactions mean, though. They're very cryptic. I know you've speculated that it means that Superman himself is gone from Shazam. I don't know. I don't think we've seen the last of Henry Cavill, or else they wouldn't even bother putting something out. But I don't know what exactly that may mean. I happen to like Superman as Man of Steel. The Snyder stuff really gets me. And I think whether you like that or not, I think the one thing that hopefully you would agree with is that DCU should find a direction and stick with it.
Oh, for the love of all that's holy, yes.
I mean, even if it's dark and you don't like it, great.
Stick with it. Just
do something. It, because a lot of people did, and I think that was their opportunity to set themselves apart from Marvel. It's not just new characters in different comics. With the movies, with as much as it costs for movies and as much as they bring in, DC really needs to do something different, and they need to do it in a way that also causes people not to continue to experience Marvel fatigue. If they're just going to go see another type of Marvel movie, even if it's DC, you're just kind of contributing to it, and everybody's going to suffer. So,
yeah, I agree, Stu. You gotta pick a lane. You gotta stay in that lane, and you gotta ride it out for a little while. Because if you keep jumping ships, like, oh, this didn't work, so let's do this. Oh, this didn't work, so let's do this. And you're reactionary, and you're not planning this out far enough advance. I mean, come on, Jeff Johns, get on this thing. You're never gonna find success. You're not. And I think that they had a plan, and they were going with it. Kind of doing the Zack Snyder thing. But then, let's be honest, Zack Snyder stepped away. For family reasons, the death in his family, and his wife stepped away. So they had to do something. But I think the problem with Warner Brothers, and this is just my opinion, but I've heard this other places, that there's just too many cooks in the kitchen, that Warner Brothers, the brass over there, interfere too much with the creative direction of the films.
Right.
And I've heard this, and so it becomes, a movie by committee. Like, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that,
Yeah, and we've seen major impacts to movies, Justice League and Suicide Squad. Major direction shifts due to those kinds of things that really just kind of muddy up the pace and don't really help anybody. But so I would agree. And it's like with Marvel movies, I think one of the things for me that really appeals to it is that each of the different series of movies within Marvel, they all contribute to the MCU, but they all have their very unique flavor. Thor movie is not an Ant-Man movie. Ant-Man is definitely a lighthearted kind of thing, and it's more family-oriented. But you've got, gripping action of, Winter Soldier and Civil War. And they each just have their own unique feel, but still fit into the overall theme of things. So you could have a dark DCEU and still find a way to make room for Shazam and for Flash, and have them contribute to that, but have them be kind of, the lighter, softer touches to that existing darker world. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of these things where, like, I love Marvel and I love DC. I just wish that DC could get their act together and do better, because I want them to do better. And it pains me to see one of my favorite characters, which is Superman on the DC side. Just Henry Cavill, I think, has the look. He can play Superman, and the idea that they're going to let him walk over some, breakdown and talks over a freaking cameo is ridiculous to me. Why they didn't lock him into some 9-picture deal like Marvel does to Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth and Robert Downey Jr. Like, why they didn't do that so that they have options, I don't know. But it's one of those things where I want more and I expect more, and I'm not being delivered to, and so I feel let down.
Yeah, it's just a constant velocity shift on their part, and I don't even know what to expect. Even with Guardians of the Galaxy 3, we still have a pretty good idea of where Marvel's going to be going. We don't know how they're going to get there as far as the story and stuff goes, but they have a solid roadmap that because they have so firmly in place, it makes it, I won't say easy, but easier to deal with things like Guardians of the Galaxy that may kind of go by the wayside for a bit. So
Yep.
Well, that was the discussion topic for the week.
Right.
So yeah, what were we talking about? My turn, right?
Yes, Rebel Intelligence.
Well, I don't want to... oh, that's right. I kind of switched that up. So speaking of DCEU, or, well, I guess DC anyway, not necessarily DCEU, we've gotten a first look at Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Joaquin Phoenix? Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Wawa Phoenix?
Yeah, we got a first look of Wawa Phoenix's Joker, though without makeup. So
yeah,
really, we got a picture of a dude in a jacket with some, unkept hair.
I saw. Okay, so let me say, I saw the photo and I went, this kind of looks like he could be like a Harry Potter villain, maybe, or something. And then one of the comments in the article I saw said he has almost an Andy Kaufman-esque look to him, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of an even better description, because he kind of does have that Andy Kaufman kind of look to him, doesn't he?
He actually does.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to be obsessed with that for a while.
And now you're going to think of Andy Kaufman as the Joker.
Great. Which was played by Jim Carrey, so it's Jim Carrey as Wawa Phoenix as Andy Kaufman as the Joker.
And knowing that Jim Carrey also played the Riddler in a movie. How about that?
Ooh.
Bum, bum, bum.
I actually liked Carrey's take on that. Anyway, so a couple important things that came from this, though, that I think are a little more telling, is that we confirmed that the real name of the Joker in this movie is Arthur Fleck. I don't know much about the actual history of Joker, except that there's controversy surrounding who the Joker actually is. So we get that character, we know that. There were a couple more shots of him that have surfaced where he's booping somebody, which is kind of a Joker thing, I guess. And yeah, confirming that I am more confused than ever about which movie Alec Baldwin is actually going to be in. But we do know that this is releasing October 4th next year, supposedly. We know a lot of things can happen before then, but I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see this. I want to see everything about the villains. I love that villains are getting a take. We've got Venom just around the corner here. So movies like this really kind of get my hype up, and I like Wawa's acting, and we'll see how it goes.
So you said his name is Arthur Fleck?
Yes.
So that's interesting to me because I know for a long time we never got a real name of the Joker. So we've seen now Arthur Fleck, we've had the name Jack Napier, a lot of different things. But I remember it was just literally like a year ago or so that in the comics they actually came out and said his real name was Jack Napier, which then went back to like the 1989 Batman movie. And they said, well, basically, they used this movie in the name, but it would never had been confirmed in the comics as his real name as far as like the real Joker's backstory. And so I don't know who Arthur Fleck is, and I don't know how that's going to come into.
Well, this is an origin story, so that's the exact answer you should get from this.
Yeah, it's just interesting because it's like we've never known his real name, and then they confirm his real name, but now we're going to get a movie where it's going to be a different name again.
Or have there been more than one Joker?
Now we're talking about, something that's interesting. Is there only one Joker?
Because this is, and there's been, what is it, Night of the Jokers or something like that, where there were a bunch of different Jokers that were all kind of henchmen to him kind of thing or something. I don't remember. But I mean, it's a make-up character. There could have been many Jokers and we never would have known.
And we're also talking about this is the DC universe. So after the Flashpoint, event, maybe this could be on a different, world. And this is, the Joker on that world. And,
Oh boy, here we go.
How nuanced can we get with this Joker madness? And, we're going to get 2 Joker movies, so they could both be wildly different.
Wild and crazy guys.
So, speaking of something a little different to talk about, shifting away from movies, video games.
What are
Fortnite. Fortnite's massive. It's huge. Everyone knows this game by Epic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you've played it or not, whether your kids play it or you've nieces, nephews, or you just watch the kids on the streets playing it on their mobile devices.
As they're riding their bikes.
Yeah, absolutely. Fortnite is huge. Well, there was a new, I guess, study that came out that said over in England that this last year alone, over 200 plus divorce filings citing the reason Fortnite. So, of course, this means, people are out there decrying, saying, look at this is horrible, husbands and wives are, abandoning their significant others and their responsibilities because they're playing Fortnite and trying to make it sound like the game is bad. Let's be honest. It's not the game. The game isn't the problem. It's the people that are neglecting everything else in their life for the game.
Sure. But
200 plus divorces where Fortnite is, cited specifically, that's a lot.
Well, there could be, you would definitely want to slice this out into a couple different things, because even with Fortnite being a legitimate contributor to these things, are there people who have been looking for ways out of their marriage already? Are there people that are overreacting that, like 1 hour every other day is, negligence? This could be a convenient excuse for a lot of people. And then there is, of course, going to be the slice of people that, are peeing and pooping themselves and staying up all night and,
right.
not paying their bills. That does happen. It really happens, but that Fortnite is not the root cause. Fortnite is an enabler. It's an enabler. It's a catalyst to certain things. And maybe that never would have happened without Fortnite. You can't really tell. But how do you handle that as an adult with a partner? That's the big thing. Whether you're the person playing Fortnite or not, how do you resolve such an issue? And if you can't resolve it, that's not Fortnite's fault. So
to break the numbers down further, just for perspective, 5% of all British divorces last year were for Fortnite. 5%.
Well, there's only like 100 people there anyway, so.
Right. I just found this article very interesting. anytime we see anything negative like this towards video games, people jump on. I mean, EverQuest has been, caused, or cited as the cause for divorces. World of Warcraft has been cited for the cause of divorces in the past. Any game that becomes like a big popular game that lots of people are playing.
My biceps have been labeled as the cause of... no, they haven't.
I thought they were the cause of your marriages. You tracked it in with the bicep. No. Well, start playing Fortnite, Stu.
No, that's how I get divorced. I've already passed that hurdle. I don't need Fortnite.
Yeah, maybe you'll find some girls to date while playing Fortnite. You never know. It's a thing, maybe.
Nope.
I don't know. Dang it. All right.
Nope. I can't even make a joke about that. That would just not be a thing I could get into.
For the sake of my marriage, I'm going to play Fortnite about as much as I play it right now, which is I haven't played in months because I played with my 11-year-old nephew, and he told me how bad I was at it on my third time ever playing. He's like, "Man, you kind of suck." I'm like, "Dude, my third time." He was brutal with his criticism.
So what we're hearing now on the show is that in order to keep your marriage, you're going to continue not playing Fortnite.
That's what I'm saying right here, right now in the Fortress of Nerditude.
And people say chivalry is dead.
Yeah, hey, you got to hold those doors open sometimes. Sometimes you just have to abandon Fortnite.
Put down the controller. But
step away from the keyboard and WoW, never.
Oh, come on. Let's be realistic. So speaking of, wildly popular and addicting like Fortnite, Mary Poppins is none of those things. But
she's wildly popular, though.
Yeah, not at Fortnite levels, though. She doesn't have Ninja, sitting next to you in the theater while you're trying to watch it, giving you all the stats and breakdown of what's going on.
Well, that's because Mary Poppins is a woman in Fortnite, and Ninja won't do that.
Dang it. That was what I was missing.
Why. But you could have said, Drake is streaming with her. I don't know.
But, so we've gotten a new trailer for Mary Poppins Returns. I don't know. I know we talked about it just for 30 seconds before at one point. Are you a fan of Mary Poppins? Do you like Mary Poppins at all?
I love the original Mary Poppins. I've never read the books, but the original movie, I loved that movie.
No, that was fantastic. And I know, when you're rebooting something oh my gosh, how many years later here? This is an entire 2 generations of people, 25 years after the events of the first film. And it was 1964. So that's even really 44 years later, 54 years later. The film is actually 25 years after, so that means it's going to be a period piece.
A period piece, Gale of Albers.
It's going to take place, that would mean 1989. Julie Andrews obviously not reprising the role.
Right.
But we do have Emily Blunt. That's her name.
Yep.
She's playing, and I gotta say, I've watched the trailers. This is the second one. She has got the spirit of Mary Poppins down. And it's just fluid, and you get both that super fun and yet diabolical personality, in everything she's saying, to where she's got perfect control of the situation. I find myself feeling a little strange that I'm really excited to see this movie, especially after seeing the trailers. I wouldn't have cared if she didn't pull off the trailers, but she does well.
I love that you are so excited for this. It just makes me happy. My heart is happy for this. I want to see this movie. I'm in. I loved Saving Mr. Banks, which was kind of the movie that, kind of shows the process of doing the Mary Poppins movie.
Right.
Have you seen that movie?
I have not. I'm familiar with it, but I have not seen it.
If you love Mary Poppins, at least the movie, you should go watch Saving Mr. Banks, because it's the story about how Walt Disney gets the rights for Mary Poppins and then deals with P.L. Travers, the author of the book, while trying to make the movie. And it's really interesting because you get a lot of background detail info into what it took to actually make this thing happen in the first place. And I think you'd like it. So I'm in. I want to see more Mary Poppins. I mean, obviously it's not going to be what I grew up with. It's not going to be Julie Andrews. But if my kids can watch it, they love Mary Poppins. If my kids can watch it and get into it and buy off that Emily Blunt is Mary Poppins, I mean...
Yeah, Morgana loves Mary Poppins as well.
Yeah.
She's seen it probably like 7 or 8 times with her mom. I've watched it with her once. So this is not going to be a stretch to get her excited to watch it either. Maybe we could have like the whole Fortress of Nerditude family viewing.
Ooh.
And like splurge on some AMC Stubbs A-list action.
And I'll go see it together. We could do that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then we can have the kids give us their review and record it.
Oh gosh, that's a tie-in. This just all kind of works out.
How about that? Exploiting our children for podcast numbers.
Hey, I used to make my older daughter fish for me in World of Warcraft, so I'm no stranger to this game.
I love that you did that, by the way.
She does not. She still remembers it. And that greatly contributed, apparently, to her not really liking video games until she was like in her 20s.
Did you say that was like a punishment for her?
Yeah.
Like she had a choice? I love that.
She was grounded for a day, and I told her for every half an hour that she fished, she could have an hour off of her grounding.
So awesome.
I mean, she didn't have to take it. It's not like exploiting her.
Right.
She did something wrong. She got an adequate punishment for that. I'm offering her an opportunity and benefiting from it. That's all.
If you'd like to work off some of your time, you can gold farm for me.
Or make some shoes.
That's funny. Speaking of video games and excitement around video games,
there tends to be that from time to time.
And kid like a love of video games, I guess, is even better. There was a big announcement from Nintendo, the old maker of the Mario games and, the big Japanese company.
I know them from the comic book, facilitation system.
Yeah.
For mostly Japanese manga stuff.
And the trading card company that they started out as too, right?
Right.
They had one of their Nintendo Directs just this last week, and they announced a lot of big games coming. And I want to share a couple of those with you because I think some of them are going to be big in the gaming community. They've announced Luigi's Mansion 3 is going to be coming out for the Nintendo Switch, and I know
there was a 2.
There was a 2, Luigi's Mansion, Luigi's Mansion 2.
I liked the first one. The second one, I really didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I didn't get to, because I think it was Luigi's Mansion, then Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, which was like a 3DS game. But it's gonna roll out to the Switch, and it's coming sometime soon. They're doing kind of a remake of the 3DS title, and I guess launching it in October. But Luigi's Mansion 3, I know that's probably gonna be a really big title on the Switch. Some of these I don't really know much or not a lot of, but Katamari Damacy Reroll is coming out, and I guess a lot of people are liking that. One of the big things that was announced was the Nintendo Switch Online service, which is like a $20 a year cost. It gives you
$20 a year or a month?
$20 a year.
Wow!
So it's dirt cheap compared to like the
Sure.
Some of the others, like PlayStation, I think Xbox are all like $60 each. But basically, you get an online subscription. You get to play with that a bunch of classic NES games. You get cloud saves for your data. There's a smart app, and then there's also going to be like special offers to buy things at a reduced cost. So, that's kind of cool. They're also going to be selling 2 NES-inspired wireless controllers to put on the side of the Switch, and you can take off. Huh. And there's like $60 for those. Those look really cool. I'm super tempted to get those.
Will they like completely kill your thumbs?
Probably.
Because if not, I'm not interested.
Right? Probably. They're going to dig into your palms. You're going to have the marks where the hard plastic was digging in. Yep. They're releasing Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. That was basically like the side scroller that they put on the Wii U. Right. That was basically like a return to kind of the original Mario game kind of gameplay style. Yeah. And it looks really good, and it looks like a lot of fun. I mean, obviously it's not going to be, kind of like the Super Mario Odyssey, the open world, kind of 3D stuff, but I mean, if you're into Mario, that's going to be a big game.
I honestly haven't really liked Mario since they started going 3D. I liked Super Mario 64. That was it. I haven't really liked one since.
Have you played Mario Odyssey?
I have not.
Odyssey was a lot of fun. I really liked it, and the boys watched me play a ton.
Super Mario 3 was my favorite of all time, for those who are counting.
Yes. Tanuki Mario. That was my favorite suit. A game called Town that's coming out that looks like it's, kind of like a team behind the Pokemon franchise. It's some sort of 3D RPG game. Kind of looks kind of interesting. A game called Cities Skylines. And I don't know what this is, but it kind of looks like Sim City to me, just from like the screenshot.
I have that on Steam.
Okay. Is that what it is?
It's a different city builder, yeah. But it's so much better than the newest SimCity. Now, I like some of the older ones a lot, but it's definitely got a lot to it. It's meatier. You can do a lot more with it. You've got more control over the cities, but it's got some interesting like city growth, population control kind of things that are done much better than SimCity, I think.
Okay. There's a game called Yoshi's Crafted World. Now, this Yoshi game we've actually seen a little bit of in the past, but it was finally given a name, Yoshi's Crafted World, and it's given a release window. It's going to be spring of 2019, but it's going to be the normal kind of Yoshi stuff, jumping around, egg tossing, little bah, bah,
why
sound
crafting
effect.
world, though? That almost kind of belies that it's going to be like some kind of Vox manipulation kind of thing, too, or maybe like some item crafting.
Yeah, I don't know, but everything kind of has like a look of like paper mache or like, like an origami kind of to it somewhat. So Yoshi's Crafted World for the Nintendo Switch in spring 2019. Now here's the thing that really got my attention until the last item that I'll mention. They're bringing a bunch of Final Fantasy games to the Switch, and one of them is going to be Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition HD. So that to me, looks like they kind of made it kind of kitty-eyed or something. Yeah. So I don't know about that.
I did see that one specifically today. Was not impressed.
Yeah, I need to play 15 just period.
I have it, but I don't have space on my hard drive for it.
Yeah, there you go.
I have the HD 4K pack, and it's like 100 gigs.
Yeah. There's a Chocobo game, Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon Everybody. There's World of Final Fantasy Maxima, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition, and I know Crystal Chronicles was a popular game with a lot of people. Final Fantasy 12, The Zodiac Age.
Liked it.
And then here's the one that got my real attention.
Oh boy, here we go.
Final Fantasy 7. Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10, and Final Fantasy X-2 Remastered. The only game in that list I haven't played is 9, which I hear is good, and so I want to play it. I love 7. I love 10.
Yeah, a lot of people who loved, kind of the determination for that. You're going to love Final Fantasy 9 if you love Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
Some definite similarities between them. 10 and 10-2, awesome.
Yep, loved them. 10 better than 10-2, but I loved 10-2 as well.
Yeah, equally for me. But is it Final Fantasy 7 or remake?
It's Final Fantasy 7. It is not the new remake, at least not yet. What's interesting is that they did 7, 9, 10, and 10-2. No love for Final Fantasy 8?
Not really.
I mean, I know it wasn't its most popular, and I actually had never played it, and I started playing it on my PSP a while back. Or no, on my Vita a while back, sorry.
It wasn't a bad game. It just was meh.
Yeah.
I don't think it grabbed anybody's attention, positive or negative.
So the Final Fantasy news probably would have been my biggest takeaway from this Nintendo Direct until the last thing happened.
What?
And this is going to be the thing that's going to get a lot of people excited. We got a little video with Tom Nook. And if you know Tom Nook, he is a main character from the game Animal Crossing, which came out a number of years ago on the GameCube. Animal Crossing is coming to the Switch in 2019. They're going to make an Animal Crossing game, and it's going to be massive. I I remember buying Animal Crossings because everyone was talking about it back in the day. And I got it, and I walked around, and I collected some bugs, and I did little fishing, and I was trying to build my little home, and I just kind of didn't quite understand it, but I was enjoying it. And I don't know if maybe I just didn't play it long enough to kind of really kind of get into where you do stuff, maybe more. But I know that to me, it seems like a Sims type of game, except it's, all with cutesy little raccoons and foxes and whatnot. And it's kind of Nintendoized, we'll say. But I know people are losing their minds on the internet about Animal Crossings on the Switch.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way as you did. I actually thought I would like Animal Crossing. I like Sims type games. I like the light RPG of it. Everything. If I looked at the recipe for Animal Crossing, I should have loved it, and I didn't. And I've tried a couple since and didn't. I don't know. I would have thought I would have liked it, but I'm really kind of on the Switch version.
What do you think about it didn't catch you then?
I don't know. I mean, the characters were fun. They had some story behind it. You got to do like some farm and raising things, which I actually like. The chill, casual fishing stuff. Just having it all put together, and just never got my attention long enough to make me want to play it again. I never put it down and went, God, I can't wait to do that again tomorrow.
Right.
So,
well,
but I mean, I do know it's hugely popular, so not surprised people are going crazy.
The only thing that would have made me happier than that would have been maybe announcing like Zelda the Wind Waker being remastered for the Switch, because they remastered it for the Wii U.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on that to be released. Twilight Princess.
They always do that though. Like they'll re-release it with a couple of the even older versions of it or something. So I wouldn't be surprised. But Wind Waker, that was my all-time favorite Zelda, hands down, and I would play that again over and over.
Yep, me too.
But we do have what is it? Dragon Quest 13 on Steam now. So that's a thing I've been kind of waiting until I get my bonus to pull the trigger on. But not related to Switch. But I would not be surprised if it comes out there, because they're also releasing it on PS4. So,
nice.
Stu,
do you have anything else?
That was just one Rebel Intelligence article.
Yeah.
Good grief, man.
I know. How about that?
We love the Switch. No, I've got nothing else.
Okay. Well, let's talk about last week. Last week we put a question out to our super friends. We had an episode where we highlighted a single character, and we highlighted the Flash, and we kind of talked about our introduction to the Flash, kind of us being kind of a little newer to it, some of the characters' powers and abilities, and some of the villains, and just kind of had a lot of kind of a good conversation about a single character. And I really actually enjoyed doing that. It was something a little different. And we asked super friends, which hero or villain would you like to see us highlight in an upcoming episode? And we're going to go to your responses and read them this week. We're going to start over on email like we always do, and you can email us at forwardofnerd@gmail.com. This email comes from Peter Christensen. He says, Dear Nerds, I like Daniel Craig, but I'll take Quantum of Solace over Spectre any day. No question, those two are fighting for last place.
I liked Spectre.
I liked Spectre. I thought it was okay, though, but not like I was really into it. But really, Spectre over Quantum of Solace? But I mean, he says they're fighting for last place for him. So I mean, they're not so much fighting for me, but it's not that far off Quantum of Solace, in my opinion. Anyway, he says, when I was a teenager in my comic book phase, I had to limit my scope, and I picked Marvel over DC. That plus the DC EU has kept the Flash out of my life. That said, I did enjoy Ezra Miller's portrayal in Justice League, and Stu's explanation that he's DC's Spider-Man made it so clear. Two villains that I vaguely knew from comics that got excellent movie treatment were Magneto and Thanos. They had complexity and depth beyond the heroes that opposed them, and were essential for legitimizing superhero movies in previous and current generations. So I'd say maybe he's saying we should look at Magneto and Thanos. He says, cheers, Peter Christensen.
So those are two really converging ideas for me. Magneto, I don't know. I will disagree there. I don't see him as having a lot of depth other than he kind of has a little bit of morality to him. But Magneto is huge as a villain. He's been everywhere. Thanos, not so much, but the power and impact that he brings to the situations that he is involved in is magnitudes larger than most other villains of any type, DC, Marvel, whatever. So interesting. Both very worthy of consideration, but noted.
Yeah. Going over to Twitter, which you can always reach us. We're on Twitters at Ford of Nerd. We got Nerdish67 at dspin67 says, Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. the Kingpin.
That would be interesting. He's, I would say, probably not like, he's not a starter on your all-time villain superhero baseball team, but I liked him. I definitely liked him, especially in Daredevil, the Netflix version of Daredevil. I've actually seen Kingpin in a couple comics as well.
And he was big kind of in the Spider-Man cartoon in the 90s.
Yes.
And it's funny that you say because of, Daredevil, and he says, maybe because I'm playing Spider-Man right now, he's thinking of, Wilson Fisk. He says, can't wait until December, and Daredevil is back on Netflix.
Yeah.
So he's thinking the same thing you're thinking. I like Kingpin. I think we definitely could talk about Kingpin in the future.
Yeah. That may even be a little more interesting just because of the nuance of that character rather than being larger than life. There's some subtlety to it. He's the gangster mob boss kind of thing. Yeah. I like it.
Going over to Twitter, Caleb Albers. He says, first things first, Stu...
Wait, Twitter or Facebook?
What'd I say, Twitter?
You said Twitter.
Strike that. Reverse it. Let's go again. Give it the old Willy Wonka there. Facebook, which you can find us, facebook.com/Ford of Nerd. He says, first things first, Stu. It's Cavill, not Cavell. Also,
I thought we were getting to be buddies, man.
Also, Skrull, not Skrill. So he's calling you to task on the English language stuff, which apparently I'm murdering this episode, so don't worry, Stu. You're fine. I'll hear about it next week. He says, and the reason they are a huge deal is because of a comic story called Secret Wars, where the Skrulls begin to invade Earth, but take places of our favorite heroes. They shapeshift and are very convincing whenever they replace a person. Not even those closest to them would be able to notice. So the big deal is, this could change things dramatically. One of the heroes that we've seen and watched these past 10 years could be a Skrull. It's a huge, messed up game that keeps you at the edge of your seat. I highly recommend. Super good read. So before we go on to that actually is kind of an interesting idea. If something like that does happen, then it could pull the old, we're going to retcon all these movies that you thought you were actually seeing Thor, but really it was this Skrull bad guy the whole time, and the real Thor is off doing something else.
Or Loki.
Right? Although you can't mess with Loki because he's kind of the trickster and does that too.
Right. But we did see Loki have an unfortunate end in Infinity Wars, so maybe that was just a Skrull, a Skrill, a Skrull, a Skreedle.
A Skrilla?
Skrillex.
Sorry, yeah, right. So that is interesting. Caleb brings up a really good point that it could have some far-lasting effects into the MCU. Okay, moving on with what he says. He says, also, I have to disagree with your assessment that Flash is DC's Spider-Man equivalent. Justin talks of the comics. In the movies, that's actually a close comparison. The Flash is supposed to be the confident, goof-off adult. In the movies and show, he's lacking in the confidence and he's always a young adult. I mean, it works, but it's not the Flash I'm used to. Also, Stu, again, Batman didn't make the Flash's suit in Justice League. So comparing the armored Flash to Iron Man building the Iron Spider suit is slightly inaccurate. I put that in quotes for a completely different reason. Stu, are you okay? I mean, he's beating you up pretty hard. I just want to check in on you real fast before we continue on.
I can't move my neck again.
Oh, man. Caleb, man, you hurt his neck. Okay, Google. Neck remedies. Take that. And, actually, hey, I just kicked off my phone. So poor Tyler Vidatow is going to be, driving into a pond now because his thing's going to go off. And
total digression, but when you enact Cortana, I will say that when I say, hey, Morgana, and I'm saying it slowly just not to kick it off, that usually triggers my computer. So
nice.
Anytime I call my daughter, my computer goes off.
He says, now, as for another hero spotlight, I think you both know that I'm wanting Hulk. That's super obvious, and if you do, I really want to be a part of that. The other one I want to be a part of, if you'd let me, is She-Hulk. I think her backstory is super interesting and would make for a fantastic episode. I'm not an expert in all the other Hulks, Red Hulk, A-Bomb, Abomination, Scar, etc. But I do know a lot about those as well. I just know most about the OG Hulk and She-Hulk.
Nope, I would not do that episode because I would not be able to contribute for fear of retribution on everything I said.
It says, lastly, I, along with everyone else, heard you put money down on the release date of a Captain Marvel trailer. With the trailer being scheduled to release tomorrow, Tuesday, who do we go through to claim that? Love the show. Keep it up. Yeah, because didn't we claim that we weren't going to see a trailer till around
I said
Christmas?
By the end of the year. You said like February-ish for something. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But
so, we've made a lot come true already on this podcast. If we're wrong on the first thing and it happens to be this, yeah.
I said Christmas at the latest. So technically.
On a technicality.
Well, boy.
Am I gonna have to go back and listen and see if we actually can get off on a technicality?
Yeah. No, I thought it was going to be Christmas. I'm surprised it was tomorrow.
Yeah,
well,
me
tomorrow
too.
as of recording this, anyway.
Right. So. Or 2 days ago if the internet broke and you're not hearing this.
Caleb will
anyway,
never know.
Super Friends, I would like to say that, that's all we have for you this week. But there's one more. We got another voicemail, man. 2 weeks in a row, Stu.
Yay,
How
voicemails. Can we
let's
listen
kick
to
it off and let's go. Yeah, let's listen to this. Let's play this thing and let's see who called in.
I bet it's Mr. Rogers.
What's up, nerds and nerdettes? Stu, Spencer. I'm calling in to answer the hero and villain question. Now, it's going to be kind of weird because I'm going to go with a team of heroes. The real Ghostbusters. And I know that they fought a bunch of different villains, per se, the ghosts. But I'm going to pick a specific ghost. The Boogeyman. I remember as a kid watching that episode how freaking spooky he was. Anyway, give me your thoughts on that, please. And when you guys were talking about WoW, you mentioned character creation and how you pick female characters to play as. Which, there's nothing wrong with that. Because in the Mass Effect trilogy, I am femship 100%. But in everything else, I've always made a male character. But the Mass Effect, I went with a female character. And she's B.A. Anyway, guys, keep up the great work. I know that was kind of late. Hashtag King Slow here. Else time.
All right, Paul Calicote coming in on the voicemail. Stu, what do you think? The real Ghostbusters?
So to clarify that, the real Ghostbusters being the cartoon that aired, I love the crap out of that show.
Oh, me too.
And yeah, I like that it kind of became the Monster of the Week kind of thing. So I don't recall the Boogeyman. I would actually have to watch it over again, which I would happily do so with Morgana. She's actually seen the Ghostbusters movie. That could actually be fun. So thanks for the inspiration there. That's a thing that I'm likely to take up pretty soon. And real quick, before your thoughts on that, I actually had a conversation about the whole female character thing, referring to talking about WoW in the episode. And it was like, most of my characters are male, most of your characters are female. And, looking at your own character over all those years, yeah, that's great, that's fantastic. But doesn't it become awkward when I'm playing my male character, you're playing your female character, and I'm looking at your butt?
I mean, I take it as a compliment.
It's a compliment.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't thought about it that much.
Nice.
Yeah, it's funny because most of the time I pick male characters, I feel like. But lately, when I jumped back into WoW here just recently, I've been playing female characters. But the reality is for me, it's just, I don't know. In WoW, it doesn't really matter. I don't think that much. It's just a representation of your character. Because I'm almost always looking at it, from kind of like a third person view, like over the shoulder. So it's not like in some video games where like you pick a character and then when it gets to cutscenes, you actually see that character's face. You don't see a lot of that in World of Warcraft.
Right.
So. But yeah, anyway, thank you, Paul Calico. Thank you, Super Friends, for your answers this week. We appreciate your interaction. And of course, we're looking forward to that episode 100, which we're going to make a lot of the whole show just a celebration. And it's going to be about a lot of you and the community. So we're looking forward to that and talking to you some more in the future. Stu, Super Friends are out there. They're doing good work. What can they do to help us this week?
Well, I would say massage the neck, but that got taken care of. So, I can't really think of anything except maybe, I don't know, going to iTunes, giving us a 5-star. I love that stuff. It's very therapeutic for me. My neck relaxes when that happens and sparkles show up everywhere except for on vampires. It's an amazing thing. We like the numbers. We need the numbers. We want to get our podcast out there to as many people as possible. Podcasts are definitely a flavor for a lot of people, but we know there are definitely a lot more super friends out there that they just need to see that it's there on an iTunes list, or, hey, if you tell a friend, you like this podcast, especially if you've got a favorite episode, something. There have been a couple episodes even that have generated some discussion. So if you think someone that might be interested in, having that discussion with you or whatever, point them our way, whatever it takes. We love seeing numbers climb, and numbers are actually going up. And, that's thanks to you guys. So keep that up. 5-star ratings on iTunes are the way to go. Thank you. Please keep it up.
Hear, hear. Well said. Stu, you watched a movie you kind of talked about, but then you didn't talk about, and you had an idea for maybe kind of a conversation we could have kind of loosely based on that. So why don't you tell me what you saw and what it made you think of?
So I saw the movie Searching. That's the name of it, Searching. And to be honest, until it was recommended by this friend that I went and saw it with, I didn't even know that movie existed. But I saw the synopsis, and I was eager to go check it out. And basically, it's that the idea is that this girl is born into an age where, computers are now the thing. The movie starts with a cringe-worthy Windows 95 desktop image. And you just have that rolling green hill kind of thing.
Yep.
And that's the start of it. And you see them, like creating these accounts and clicking in and doing that whole original Windows setup. And they're starting to tell the story of this family through the fields that they're filling out on this form when you're setting up Windows. The movie then turns into, it quickly ramps up to where she's a little more grown up and a teenager and stuff like that. And I don't want to spoil anything about the movie. But I think even the mechanism to talk about it spoils a little bit because it's really the plot device of everything. This entire movie there's no like action on anybody just like you would see in a normal movie. There's a camera and someone in a scene. Everything in the movie is told through the internet. Most of it is through FaceTime. Like if you're seeing a conversation between two characters, it's because they're connecting together on FaceTime. And then maybe some chat with additional dialogue. Like he's talking on FaceTime to one person, having a chat with another, and the dialogue of the movie plays out in that way. Another point of the plot may be brought up in an email, and this lead investigator that's investigating the scene of the movie is also part of this. And you see like missed calls, the timing of the missed calls, all these details. Nothing is stated. I didn't state I went to 7-Eleven at 7:45. It's that, oh, you missed a call from someone while you're at 7-Eleven at 7:45, and you're seeing the little email notification. It's difficult to describe it except to say they are extremely detailed. But the story is not hard to follow because we are so wrapped up in social media and our phones and FaceTime and the internet. It's almost a little telling that there was no difficulty in understanding what was going on at all, even though all of it was told through the internet in some format. And even some backstory was brought up through some AVI files that he's opening up in his computer. And so you've seen those scenes play out in there, but there's nothing that's actually taking place right now, just out in the world. So it kind of got me thinking, just both how it's a little telling that, it was so easy to follow along and get the whole story. And I will say it's not completely unique, the story. It's really just about how it's being told. But this girl being brought up in the internet, how different is our world now? How different are our kids' worlds going to be? Not just thinking about the technology that's new from when you and I were kids, but imagine where our kids are going to be in 30, 40 years from now.
Flying cars. Flying cars. Come on.
We've been promised that forever. And we're finally getting it thanks to Uber?
Real hoverboards. Real hoverboards. That's what I want.
Jaws 13.
Yeah. This is an interesting idea, right? Where did we come from in our childhood and what we experienced versus the way our kids are being raised now in kind of this digital age, right?
Information age, even.
Yeah.
Everything is there right now. Everything.
Right, which is good and bad. I think there's positives for the way we grew up versus maybe the way our children grew up. And obviously we're fathers, and you got Katie, your older daughter who's an adult already, but then you got Mo who's I think 7 years old, and I've got Charlie and Jackson respectively 5 and 4. So we've got younger kids. Let me ask you this, I kind of was thinking of some things, what are things you can think of that we have now that we didn't have when we were kids?
Record players. Oh crap, they brought those back. Physical phones. I know it's still a thing because CenturyLink keeps reminding me that I can get my own phone line, but right. I've not seen a base phone, even not a rotary phone, in forever. Payphones. I actually saw a payphone when I went to Portland and pointed it out to my older daughter, who was a little surprised. Physical phones are a thing they were an anchor in the home.
Right.
And you had real conversations with them. It's kind of telling that we all have cell phones. I don't see people talking on them very much. Yep.
Yeah, we text, we FaceTime, we use Google Hangouts, whatever, right?
Yep. So phones is a big thing for me. Phones for me growing up was my social life, and not just like it is now where I text and talk with everybody there. It was to set something up, or it was the all night conversation with the girlfriend, or
or a girl you were interested in.
It was a girlfriend. Thank you.
No, I'm saying for me, I'd end up talking to girls that I was interested in, trying to make my girlfriend all night long.
And then there was fighting for the phone.
Yep.
And I remember when call waiting was a new thing, and then enter, online services and modems and things like that. And not only were you competing with dad for the phone, but you were also competing with dad for the phone because he was going to be on the modem all night because he's on his computer. So, you're kind of hosed there. And then, hey, how do we meet those needs? And we come up with DSL, and then we come up with higher speed modems that can handle call waiting. And we see the advances in technology, but growing up from them on the other side of it, where we had a need that was then later met by it, it's not difficult to see how we got to the cell phones we have today and why they are the way they are, because of all the problems that they solve, and then the next problem and the next problem. But yeah, just old school, having a single phone in the middle of the kitchen or something.
Yeah. So I'm going to add on to your phone thing. I have an etiquette thing. If I know people and like I'm close or whatever, like I don't have a problem like texting someone after 9:30, texting someone 10, 11 o'clock at night if I know they're going to be up. But I have a real problem calling someone on the phone after about 9:30 at night, because
Sure.
in my household growing up, if the phone rang after 9:30 at night, my dad would say something to the effect like, he's like, this better be an emergency. Someone better be in the hospital for calling after 9:30 at night. If that phone rang, it was like, you better be in big trouble and you need me desperately. Otherwise, you're interrupting my kids going to sleep. This is too late to be calling. I remember my dad being like, it is too late to have your friends call. Tell them not to call after 9:30. I'm like, dude, you got to call me at 9:25. Don't call me at 9:30. Because they call it 9:25. My dad like, Spence. I'm like, Dad, 9:25. He's like, whatever. So like, that's the thing. Like I try not to do is I try not to call people that I'm not super, super close with after 9:30 still to this day.
Well, then think about caller ID.
Right?
Who you always answered the phone. You had no idea who was calling unless you just didn't want to be bothered, no matter who it was. Now, everyone's looking at the phone. Oh, who is that? You even have the option to not take the call. Like even not just to not answer it, but just swipe the red button. And then also showing up at somebody's house. Like if somebody shows up at my house now and they haven't texted, I'm thinking somebody's died.
Right.
Back then, it's like you just go to your neighbor or whatever, knock, knock, knock. There's no texting. There's no setting anything up.
Yeah. Hey, can Eddie come out and play?
I get that from my next door neighbor kid asking if Morgana can play. But yeah, and that you're absolutely right. Etiquette, things of that nature. The phone wasn't just someone to call. It was central to how you lived your life, as it is now in very different ways.
Right. Something I thought of, Stu, this is really, really telling. I remember I was watching, I think we put on something YouTube with the kids, or maybe it was something we recorded off the TV. But we were watching the show and all of a sudden it went to a commercial. And Charlie said, he's like, Daddy, the show is broken. I said, what do you mean the show's broken? He's like, Daddy, the show stopped. And I was like, oh, buddy, that's just a commercial. He's like, what? And he says, what's that? And I said, it's just sometimes they have little breaks in the show and you watch the commercial and then the show comes back on. He could not understand that concept because he's so used to watching streaming services. Like he can watch his shows on Disney Junior or Disney XD or Netflix or Hulu, because on Hulu we pay for the non-commercial version. And so he's used to watching and streaming his entire movie, his entire show uninterrupted. When we grew up, when we were sitting around the TV, you had to watch commercials. There was no skipping commercials. Commercial was a time when you'd maybe run out of the room to go grab some popcorn or go grab a snack or hit the bathroom really fast or something of that nature. But commercials was, a way of life. Like you just had to deal with that. And it was when advertisers were going to try to sell you their stuff. And Saturday morning cartoons was like a big, big, big deal. And it was a big deal for, advertisers too, because they knew, hey, we can get the kids to watch this and then they're going to want to buy the new G.I. Joe vehicle. And so they're going to tell their parents and, come Christmas season, we'll sell lots of this G.I. Joe vehicle. My kids don't understand that concept now because the technology in TV and the way we consume media has shifted and changed so much that streaming and not having commercials is such a big thing today that they have no understanding of that. Whereas, in my childhood, which was, I say, a more analog childhood, that was a big part of it.
Well, you kind of hit on something there. And I was originally going with commercials and had some feedback, but you brought up something really important with buying toys and how that marketing was delivered and consumed. That is really a big part of why all these toy manufacturers and things like that are willing to kind of pony up and help sponsor kids that are doing all these unboxing videos. And
right.
Because you don't have those commercials anymore, but you have this enraptured child sitting there watching another kid playing with the toy. Not only do you have more than a 30-second spot, but you've got emotional investment into the activity that's going on. You've got details that can be provided that you wouldn't normally fit in a 30-second spot. And
it's probably cheaper.
Well, yeah, they don't have to pay anything if they don't even if they don't sponsor a kid, which they do. But even if they don't, you've got absolutely free advertising, millions of kids subscribing in some cases to some of these. You know, why would you not, if you're like Fisher Price, why would you not want to set that kid up to have high production quality videos? Because that's it. That's your marketing on demand. You don't even have to put the effort into it.
Yeah.
But the big thing for me with TV was really commercials. Commercials was directly what affected my choice to cut the cord. As soon as Netflix was available for streaming, I left TV behind and didn't even think twice about it. And it wasn't just not sitting through commercials. It was on-demand viewing that I could see what I want when I want to without needing to go to Blockbuster. So that is one thing I don't look back on fondly at all. I hated commercials. I never liked TV, even with cartoons and stuff, because I didn't like being chained to the same time, same day, even growing up. There are a couple I couldn't miss.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Real Ghostbusters was one of them. So, but yeah, I don't miss that age of television at all, and I like where we're at there. I'm kind of a curmudgeon with new technology. I'm not an early adopter of most things, but I don't look back on commercials and wish I had them again. Besides, even if I did, I could just watch, the best Super Bowl commercials on YouTube.
Right, exactly. You can cherry pick your commercials. It is something interesting though, like the commercials, just to watch my son have that reaction that he thought there was something wrong because his show stopped.
Yeah.
And I had to explain to him, like, this is a thing, you haven't got there yet, and
well,
but it's going
Shame on you for not bringing him up on YouTube. Well, they'll just interrupt right in the middle of something to bring you some ads if you don't have premium stuff.
Yeah, well, now he gets that, but yeah.
Oh, that drives me nuts. So TV commercials, information. Simply having access to information. Wikipedia was the first real popularized push, I think, on information sharing. I know we had like Britannica Online, things like that, but Wikipedia was really where the power of information kind of came to be for all things encyclopedia.
Right.
I mean, I do remember, this was still when I was pretty young, but legit encyclopedia salesman.
Yeah. Oh,
coming
yeah.
to the house. My grandparents had a nice big old collection of encyclopedias that I had to study. Like every time I went over, I hated this. I had to pick something to study for like an hour, when I got there every weekend before dinner. It was, but now we have Wikipedia. So Wikipedia, and really there was nothing between there, right? You had encyclopedias, and then you started having like some old school mapping stuff on the internet. You had Britannica Online. None of those things really super took off, I think, until Wikipedia and like Google Maps.
Right.
But now you've got access to all of history, all of information, and you have access to everywhere in the world you want to look, with a few exceptions. And now you just kind of, just open up your browser, type in some things you want to look for. You've got legit information. You've got advertisements related to that. You've got all kinds of, production stuff around it. You've got our podcast, whatever the case may be. You've got everything, not just that explains what you're looking for, but everything even related to it that you could possibly ever want for the information. So you can cherry pick what you care about even, and all that kind of stuff. Interesting tidbit, when I was going for my master's, we were challenged by the professor to actually use Wikipedia as a source. And the big thing with Wikipedia is everyone knows that anyone can go in and edit it as you want, and kind of put anything up there. And there have definitely been some hoaxes and things like that with Wikipedia. Right. But so our professor, with a subtle point in mind that we didn't quite catch on at the time, half of the class was assigned to research the topics using cited sources only. So even if they're online, they're published materials, they're legitimized, and the other half was assigned to use Wikipedia. And the idea was thinking that obviously the people with the cited sources are going to come up with more concrete details and data, while the people with Wikipedia may not be as accurate, but they would have more context around it. The point that he was making, however, was actually that Wikipedia was found to be much, much, much more accurate than encyclopedias. Because it's validated by crowdsourcing. When things are put up there that are inaccurate, people will find them, correct them, cite their sources, and make sure that those things are accurate. If you have something that is inaccurate in an encyclopedia, that is set in stone, even potentially for later editions to come. So there are much more erroneous things on Wikipedia, but it's much easier to correct them, so it tends to be far more accurate in the long run. So, but that's a thing to think about.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I thought about kind of when you were talking about this, the availability of information is that the libraries used to be like the hub, right? You needed to research a paper, you needed to get information, you go to the library, you go to the Dewey Decimal System and the card catalog, and like you'd have to look things up, and like now that's just on your phone. Like you don't have to go anywhere. You just do it at home, on the go, wherever you're at.
Funny enough, we actually still take Morgana to the library. And when we lived downtown, we would take her to the Salt Lake City downtown library,
which is an amazing library.
That building is crazy. Now it's not so good anymore because the population of people attending that library has gone down. Even if they're there, and they are, it's definitely kind of it's sliding downhill, and there's a lot of homeless people that are living there, and they don't clean up after it as much anymore. Most of the shops that are around there are kind of gone. Night Flight Comics was there for a while.
Yeah.
They've left a couple years ago. So it's there. Libraries are there, and they're important to me. They're important to make sure that Morgana, has access to real books. Because there's just an experience there. She loves reading. She's not looking at a tablet when she's reading. She's opening some book that's got great illustrations, and she's flipping the pages, and it's fun.
Right.
So
we actually got Charlie and Jackson library cards on the first day of school when they did the whole big, like back to school thing and the movie kind of red carpet thing. We went in and signed them up for library cards, and we actually took them to the library maybe a week later, and we got, what did we pick out? Something like 12, 13 books and then one movie, because they hadn't seen 101 Dalmatians and they wanted to watch it, so we checked it out from the library. But we've actually made a kind of a switch in our household that we've started watching less TV with the boys when they're home, and turn off more of the screens, turn off the tablets and all the YouTube and whatnot. And we're just making them play more together and read more. So we read now a story or two every night before they go to bed at least. Because I really want to install the love of reading and the love of actually opening up a book versus reading something on a tablet.
Yeah. There's an experience of yes, you have everything on demand on the internet, and yes, you can even type in kids book, this subject, whatever it is, and come up with a bunch of different books. But you can't walk up to a shelf of a bunch of related books, pick up the book, flip through it, find something neat, go through another book, flip through it, find something neat, find a couple books. I think just finding those things all together in one section is something that the internet misses. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. I love the libraries. Excuse me. And I love talking to librarians because they're a lot more bored than they used to be. Talk to a librarian. If you go into a library, talk to a librarian. Let them know they're appreciated.
Something else I was thinking about when you kind of brought up this idea was the ability, for cell phones, right? I mean, you were talking about phones in the home, but we've moved on to this thing now where you can have this phone in your pocket, which is also a small personalized computer that you can take with you everywhere you go. And you could access video games, and you could access information, and you can call people and message people. And I remember when I was a kid, like the only people that had cell phones were like doctors, lawyers, and pimps. And in most cases, those were pagers even, not cell phones.
Dang it. I was hoping we were just going to skip over that unfortunate evolution through
right
through history.
But it's something now like where we talk about like at what age do you give your kid a cell phone, and when do you do these things, and what kind of responsibilities, because we're now as parents, we have to look at and say, okay, well, we have all this information available to us, and the internet's out there, and then it's got so much that they can do. There's also so much junk and so much crap and like things that you have to like teach your kids about and train your kids to, to look out for, and kind of like, say, well, let's, here's, websites that are, obviously trying to get your personal information. Here's, things you should avoid. And so it seems like now we have to talk about not only protecting our children, with the normal things like, stay away from any stranger in a van who offers you candy, but it's like, also stay away from this website XYZ because it's essentially the stranger with candy in a van on the internet. It's just another level of complexity as a parent that you have to consider and think about. But it's kind of like the cost of having so much information readily available, and kids can get that on a cell phone that they carry around with them.
Yeah, this was actually a conversation I had with my friend before we actually started watching the movie, knowing that was the premise of the movie. But just like she's got kids and she's got parental controls. She uses a system called Circle. I don't know much about it. I need to look into it. It's apparently produced by Disney, but it's an online security system. Where the heck do you have an online security system when we were kids? It was don't get in the van.
Right, exactly.
Don't talk to the stranger, don't get in the van. Because really it's like, you had control over those things. You didn't have this access to all these things. And pretty much you knew what was going on with your kids because they were your neighbors and that was your street. Those were the activities they were doing and you were there with them when they watched TV. And yeah, you didn't have a phone where you could contain your entire life and all this access to all this dangerous stuff, at your fingertips. And I know even Morgana's class at second grade, there are several kids that have cell phones. They've had to have the talk.
Right.
So they don't bring cell phones to school, or they don't bring it to class, whatever the case may be, or they're put away, whatever. But yeah, and I mean, we have waivers. I don't know if you had to with kindergarten, but I'm pretty sure that you did with like digital use, or not waivers, but digital use agreement. Of, the kids will be using computers.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a thing.
Right. So let me ask you this, right? Like, definitely you and I grew up in a different era. I mean, I always say that I had an analog childhood and a digital adulthood. Would you ever want to swap? Like, would you ever trade in the childhood you had for having all the access to all the information and all the things we have now? Like, if you could do it over again, would you rather have had your childhood in the digital information age or kind of the analog childhood that you had?
As much as I disparage the internet, and I think for me, though, it's really easy to focus on the negatives because those are the things that stand out. Those are problems we have to solve. The positives are just there and they make my life better and happy. Honestly, I've thought many times about that very idea, especially with the kinds of games I like to play and how much I liked gaming back then. I absolutely would have swapped. Absolutely. I would love to have grown up. And I think about this a lot when I look at Morgana. I would love to grow up the way that she's growing up and to learn those things and also to have that much more time for the next big thing that's going to be big when she's an adult. Like, I want to see those kinds of things. I want to see her grow up in it. And it makes me a little jealous of what she gets to do. I would swap.
I thought about this. I don't know if I would. I really loved the kind of the analog childhood I had, staying outside and playing in the neighborhood until the street light came on, and then knowing that's when it was time to come home, right? I didn't have an alarm on a phone that I carried with me. It was street lights come on, you come home. Your dad could yell out the front porch, and if you were too far from home and you couldn't hear your dad yell,
that was on you.
Yeah, you were too far and you were in trouble. Things like that, being able to ride bikes down the street, and in the neighborhoods. It seems like now it's just a different world we live in. Like that doesn't happen as much. And there's like, parents are more, I don't want to say more involved, but like more, overbearing with kind of how they watch what their kids do all the time. Whereas like, oh, man, my parents would just kind of like let us go and play in the neighborhoods. I mean, they kind of know generally where we were, but if all, we ducked into so-and-so's house, Andy Barnes' house for an hour to play Nintendo games and then went back outside to, playing G.I. Joes. My parents didn't know. Nowadays it'd be like, oh, hey, I see you're in Andy's house on, Find My Friends on the iPhone. What are you doing? Are you playing Nintendo? No, come on back outside,
Yeah, I'm not saying it wouldn't be without the trade-offs. That's not to say I didn't entirely hate what I grew up in, especially in hindsight. I mean, I did, but it wasn't because of technology or anything like that. I absolutely playing in the street, that is a big one for me. We played soccer on our street. There were 6 kids. Every once in a while, we'd have a grown-up or two joining in. That was a regular thing. And when cars were coming, we were like halfway between the blocks. We'd move it. We'd, take the ball, move off to the side. And then a couple seconds later, we're back to it. Even on my street, I would not do that nowadays, especially because people around here are freaking maniacs.
Right.
But
yep.
I want to put a nice big launch speed bump right in front of my house. But anyway, but at the same time, to be able to play games on a tablet, board games on a tablet, in high quality production, those kinds of things are really what appeal and inspire me. And it's not just to say I'm a game addict, even though I am, but it's the imagining of what's coming next. It's imagining the impact. It's imagining how this could be done better, or the fact that we have gigabytes of data on these small little personal devices we dare call a telephone. It's wonder filling for me. And I would trade those things that I enjoyed from my childhood that maybe are gone for that in a second.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think there's so many positives and so many things that our kids have now that we didn't have, and advances, and they're going to be better prepared for the society in which they're going to grow up in than we probably were, because we were at that burgeoning, time when things were changing and technology was making such big changes. I mean, when AOL came into our home and we had the internet for the first time, right? I mean, that was such a big shift. It was like, oh, we have the internet. What can we find on here? Can we find pictures of Kathy Ireland? I bet we can. It's going to take 3 days to happen, but it can happen. Not that I know from personal experience or anything.
Oh, no,
that,
I searched for Kathy Ireland at one time.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Oh, me too. But here's my question to you, Stu, and I want to make this the question of the week to the Super Friends. What is one thing from your childhood that you wish that it was different then than today that you could actually give to your children? Something that they didn't get to experience that you wish they could have experienced, because that just doesn't exist anymore because times have changed.
Oh boy, that's such a loaded question. Really slow internet speeds. Because it gave you time to socialize and view the world and come back a couple days later. No. Gosh, the enjoyment, and maybe this is just because it was the first time, I don't know, but the enjoyment of a Walkman. Like, I know we have our phones with us, but it's not even so much that it's the Walkman, because really we just have a different device that does the same thing. But it was when that was new, when music was portable for the first time ever. We've got these cassette players that we can walk around with these headphones on and yell at people because we can't hear ourselves talk. And, everyone was comparing Walkmans, and that was like the big time when people started sharing music for the first time.
Yeah.
You took your Walkman to school with you, not for the first time ever, but as a major outsource for that, and in conversations about it, and taking that to school. You got your buddies' tapes, you swap tapes. Oh, hey, I got this really cool new iPad. And then we had the portable CD players, which really were kind of a joke because anti-skip was a myth.
Right.
But yeah, just like the first age of portable music when it was still tied to physical media. And because now our kids have grown up to where that's just the thing you do. You download it and you talk about something. Oh, I'm booting it up on Spotify right now. Oh yeah. Hey, that's pretty cool. Great.
Yeah.
They're talking about it. They're doing it. That's great. But the first real wave of that was just invigorating, and it really propelled. I think it really did a lot for what music was able to share. It was the first age of global music, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that negated the ability to have to go down to Sam Goody and go get a record or a CD or a tape. Comic books, kind of the same thing, right? I mean, you can get all that stuff digitally now, so people don't go to comic book stores anymore.
Right.
I mean, I remember spending tons of time at comic book stores and bookstores because there was this one bookstore over in DeKalb, Illinois that was doing the Star Wars collectible card game.
Nice.
And I was just dropping so much money trying to complete that. And I still have my original set that I was like something like 2 or 3 cards short of completing the whole thing back in the day. And I probably dropped hundreds of dollars on that thing.
I have a buddy I need to introduce you to who has the Star Wars collectible card game and will not ever shut up about it if you bring the topic up.
Yeah, I remember, I don't really remember that I liked playing it so much because it was kind of hard to figure out and I didn't have people that I really could play with. But yeah, I miss those days. The one thing I thought about, like, if I could take from my childhood and give it to my kids now, because of the difference in technology and the eras, the ability for kids to screw up and have mistakes and not have it like published to the internet.
Oh, Lordy.
Because when I was a kid, how to put this? We would do things like, I have to be very careful how I phrase this. Prank teachers. We would do ding dong ditch, and that caused some problems and
criminal.
stuff. But like, you can't do that kind of stuff now because, everyone's got like a Ring or a Nest camera, on their door and whatnot. And so like, you go to ring the doorbell and, in the middle of the night and then run off laughing or, whatever. Or, put some ripe bananas with firecrackers in them and, set them off on someone's porch. TPing their house, like all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're caught on camera. And it's going to be pushed out to all their neighbors and potentially uploaded to the police. And it's like, very mischief. Obviously, some of that stuff is mischief, but like kids could do things and they could say something dumb and the adults would just talk to them and say, don't do that again, blah, 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 take care of it. But it wasn't like, here's the photos, here's the photo of the kid doing this, here's the video, blah, 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 because so much of that happens now. And I don't think kids have as much of the ability to be kids and make mistakes and learn from them without it being broadcast to the whole world. And, we get into the idea of online bullying and shaming. And I wish that my kids didn't live that way. I mean, like my kids aren't living, like they're not having those kind of issues, but
I'm starting to wonder.
The potential is there, I guess is what I'm saying. And like, I didn't have that. Like, we could do dumb things and we could learn from our mistakes. And there's so many things that I did that I'm so glad were not videotaped or, pictures were taken because, it could ruin potential careers or whatever. Cause they'd say, oh, well, one time, a long time ago, he said this and now I lose my job. Right? I mean, we see that in today's society. So
I feel like you're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy there.
I mean, yes, specifically, but I wish my kids had a little more freedom to be kids and less of it, being broadcast to the world. You
do know that the reason that people have rings and all that kind of stuff now isn't for the ding dong ditchers, right?
I understand. However,
no, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence on that one, to be honest. The freedom to be a kid, the freedom to make mistakes as a kid, absolutely. The shame of that doesn't need to be anybody else's business. And even like people putting other people's business that isn't even their own online, and
Right. Yeah.
that I get. But at the same time, I don't, having been a troublemaker myself, it's the activity that you're choosing to take. And even if it's being recorded by somebody, you do the crime, you do the time. I wouldn't wish that my daughter could get away with more. I just, treat her with respect and don't make such a big deal out of it when she does get in trouble.
Yeah. Less big brother for kids. I guess that's what I'm really getting at.
Yeah, less big brother for everybody, my friend.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Well, Super Friends, that's kind of what we're thinking, but I want to hear what you're thinking. What's something you wish you could take from your childhood and give it to your child that just doesn't exist, or, has changed so much that they haven't experienced that? And let us know. We want to hear from you. And you can let us know at all the usual places. You can get our email, forwardofnerd@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/forwardofnerd, Twitter @forwardofnerd, or like Paul Calicote did this week, you can call our voicemail, which is 801-477-7687, and leave us that answer there. Stu,
and we also take telegraphs.
And carrier pigeons and smoke signals.
I'm not watching for smoke signals.
I've got a child that I'm going to have doing that, to work off some of his punishment time.
You're not going to have him doing world quests?
Not yet. We'll get there. Stu, a lot of fun this week. I'm glad once again we got to do this, and I'm also looking forward, for tomorrow with Captain Marvel trailer, and then Thursday for our next session of D&D.
Oh man, you're just reminding me how little free time I have on my own to just sit around and eat potato chips and play World of Warcraft.
Yeah, well,
we got a busy schedule, man. No, we will definitely chat, I'm sure, early tomorrow.
Yes.
I actually snooze a bit after, my alarm is actually set for 7. Beauty of working from home. And I usually snooze till like 7:15 or 7:30. If we get up at 7:30, Morgana's still got plenty of time to make it to school. I have a feeling I'm waking up at the 7 o'clock alarm in the morning.
My alarm goes off at 6:30. I get ready, so I'm kind of out the door by 7. But I may, go sit out in the truck for a couple minutes and watch it online before I actually drive, because I don't want to be driving when it's happening.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah, that would be bad. I don't need to die for a trailer for a movie.
No, but I am significantly interested and intrigued and ready to see the next thing that happens with the D&D group. To be honest, I initially had some hesitations that I brought to you that, a lot of things going on in my life. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it happen, but I was going to give it a shot. I know we wanted to put this together. That doubt is now completely squashed. That was such a good time, and it's going to get even better.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, Super Friends, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you.
Always.